Hello and good afternoon, Xbox Nation. Welcome to this week's ramping new show of the Xbox Factor podcast. I am one of your hosts, Mr. Boomstick XL, and my goodness, do we have an incredible show set up for you today. Lots to talk about, lots of Xbox news, which is why you hopefully tune in each week with me. As always, in his chair, ready to break it down, is Zemi Game. Zemi, you are another co-host that is really someone important to this show. You power the show with your knowledge, and of course, it's great to have you on. Welcome, dude.
Well, thank you so much, Boom, and I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I'm super excited. I wasn't able to come last week for the Xbox Factor podcast, and it literally killed my inside, right? So I'm super excited to be here today. Can't wait to dive into all these amazing Xbox topics that you set up for us, and I'm just super excited.
Well, listen, real quick, before let's get some of the professional business out of the way. I'm going to bring up a picture. Now, when I talk about powering the show, there is someone that has been working behind the scenes tirelessly and who is one of the community finest. You know him as Jay. I know him as a brother, but the world knows him as Graphic God. And I just want to put up his new, hot off the press picture talking about Graphic God Productions. Now, obviously, he is, in my opinion, one of the finest graphic artists I've ever had the pleasure of working with. He has done hundreds, if not thousands, of pictures, and he is responsible for almost all of the work that has been showcased on Double Barrel Gaming. And I just wanted to say that if you're enjoying the newness to the channel, with of course the intros and the animated outros, if you are enjoying the pictures that flash on screen with my avatar, if you've gone to Double Barrel Gaming and you enjoy the banner and you think that the work is professional, look no further than XboxGamerPicks.com. Now, originally, he had to take that name, and he just wanted me to kind of put this out to the community that it really does sometimes move people away from going to it because it says Xbox Gamer Picks, whereas it's really Graphic God Productions, and he does work, again, tirelessly on incredible original artwork. And that could be for your YouTube channel. That could be for your social media feeds and Twitter and Facebook. And again, like I said, you've seen his work posted on Twitter. He does animated GIFs. He does all kinds of work. And I think that if you are looking for someone that's not going to clobber you in pricing, look no further than the Graphic God on Twitter. Hit him up in a DM, talk to him, find out what the pricing is, and I can guarantee you're going to enjoy what he has to bring to the table. Now, of course, let's get into the show. Now, Zemi, we weren't sure where we were going to start. And I asked Zemi, and I said, you know what is the one topic that has your interest piqued? And we're going to get right into that particular one right now. Now, with the confirmed reports of 12 plus trips to the Asian market over the course of the last 24 months, Phil Spencer has been making the rounds with a marketplace that they literally have zero presence in, and one that has been a failure from its inception, going all the way back to the OG Xbox through the 360 and, of course, the Xbox One. And in an article that I pulled from the pages of GamesRadar.com, the first official details for the Tokyo Game Show 2020 have been announced, and they seem to confirm that the next generation consoles in the PlayStation 5, but more importantly, the Xbox Series X, will have a major presence on the upcoming industry exhibition. Now, again, granted, this event takes place towards the end of the year on September 24th through the 27th. Now, all we can hope is that due to the situation that's going on around the world with the T virus, this will, of course, be an event that's still happening, because as it's been in the last couple of weeks, a lot of events have been canceled. A lot of big companies are pulling out of these events. But getting back to the new press release from the Tokyo Game Organization, known as the CESA, they have confirmed that the event is happening from September 24th through the 27th in Chiba, Japan. And this year will feature, and this is what it says, quote unquote, novel game consoles for the next generation. Now, I think the reason why it says novel is not that they're being abrupt or insulting, but to be honest, if you don't keep your ear to the floor of what happens outside of the Americas, the home console, especially in the Asian regions, is something of a dying breed. And, the PlayStation 5 has a presence because obviously they have a big office there in Japan. We know that Nintendo is thriving both in China and in Japan because of the portability of the Nintendo Switch, which is really what goes and sells very well in those regions. They have become portable gamers. They like their games. They like their mobile games. Now, here's a direct quote from the CESA, and let me break that down. It says, the theme of the Tokyo Game Show 2020 is the future touches gaming first, reads the press release. Games are the most updated and accessible means to experiences that are emerging into technologies that will unlock new possibilities for the future. With the theme of this year, the event expects to provide an opportunity for people to touch and play the latest games and immerse themselves in the feel of an exciting future that's just around the corner. Featuring novel game consoles for the next generation, the TGS 2020 is sure to attract even more attention from around the world. The event will focus on full-fledged launch of cloud gaming and its advanced gaming environments, such as the start of 5G services for commercial use, and will boost the unprecedented gaming experience brought by new platforms. Now, you see, there is a reason why I decided to bring this up on the Xbox Factor podcast. And the reason why that is because there's been a ton of news regarding Project xCloud. And that particular subject is relevant in such a big way here. And of course, like I said, as we already know and has been talked about on numerous shows as well as many articles written, the dominant gaming experience right now in those Asian markets are the handheld and mobile gaming. And because of xCloud, there's no console that the player is required to buy. They don't have to do that $300 to $500 investment. They simply have to join the service for $15 a month. Now, it is still unofficially announced that xCloud will, of course, become a part of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. But from what we've all heard, that is what is going to happen. And as we already know, the Xbox Game Pass, even in its current form, is such a tremendous value that it had to be stated on today's show. I mean, you're already getting Xbox Live, right? And we know that Xbox Live is the most secure gaming network that's currently available. You're getting Xbox Game Pass, which, I mean, folks, what else could we say about it, Zemi? I mean, there's 200 plus games. We're getting Ori next week. I mean, it's a big hit parade. But the tangible aspect of it is that, Zemi, like yourself, you do game on PC. So because you are an Xbox Game Pass subscriber, you get the ability to download those games. Now, obviously, Zemi, this again, we're going to get into the real weeds of this in the later half of the article, but I'm interested to get your feeling on this. You know, obviously, you've seen the stories. You know that Xbox has failed numerous times in Japan, but Phil Spencer refuses to keep that L in their column, and he's looking to get a W. Do you think that with what they're offering and what they potentially could offer that market, does Project xCloud have a chance to thrive in Japan and other Asian markets?
Yeah, absolutely it does. I mean, and just to say beforehand, I mean, if this was like any other generation, I would say, Xbox would 110% more than likely fail in Japan and in the, Asian market as a whole. But with, the lack of competition with Sony in the mobile gaming market, not in the console, but in the mobile gaming market, with the lack of Sony as competition, and with how technology is ever shifting and changing, and adding in that the Asian market really has a love for mobile gaming. I really don't see how this doesn't work as an advantage for Xbox, right? And what I find really interesting is that we see a lot of people even still today, kind of try to find ways of disagreeing with this, saying that, well, Sony's going to sell more consoles and that's all that matters. Well, I mean, Sony will probably sell more consoles in the Asian market.
Yes.
But that doesn't really matter, right? We're seeing a shift from looking at consoles as what makes, console sales at what makes a company successful, to actually now looking at profitability and services to make a company successful. And then you have some other people that are making the argument that Xbox has always failed in the Asian market, and they're using that as an example why they're not going to succeed this time, and that really makes no sense either, right?
I would agree. Yes.
But what I think a lot of people are failing to understand is that Xbox has been spending so much time on this, right? More than ever before. I mean, we hear about Phil Spencer, traveling over to Japan and Korea and all these different, Asian countries so much. I mean, he might as well just buy a house over there by now, right? He travels over there all the time. We've seen, Xbox, go and, get a lot of Japanese games onto their their platform, like Final Fantasy, like Fantasy, is it Fantasy Star, right?
Fantasy Star Online too. Yes. Big.
Yes. Crossfire X. We've seen them jump in and get a lot of these titles that previously, were not available for the Xbox One, right? And then now we're hearing rumors that they're looking to acquire a Japanese studio or make a Japanese studio for themselves. And once you add in, with xCloud, how successful that seems to be going from all the people that we hear that have already started using it. I mean, it just makes way too much sense for them to go into here and for them to finally breach the wall and enter into the Asian market.
Well, you know what? I want to get into the I want to get into a particular, get into the real the numbers part of it, which is of course important. In the United States, as many people know, you are lucky to get 1 gigabytes of download, right, when you're mobile, right? We know that typically you pay, and typically you pay through the nose. Well, in contrast, Japan's new speed offering is offering 10 Gbps services at $55 a month for that kind of speed. Now, when you think about new technology, and you think about where, we know that the Japanese market is dominated. I mean, absolutely dominated by the mobile market. And then you bring xCloud into the picture. Maybe, just maybe, if you tell someone they could pay $15 a month to get over 200 games. Maybe they jump on that, okay? And again, we have to think about this for a second. You see, I don't believe in coincidences, and I believe in Phil Spencer. Now, some people will say that, well, boom, you're a Phil Spencer ass kisser. And I would say, well, then you're probably right, because I respect him as a businessman. I think he's the right guy to lead Microsoft, but more importantly, he's a gamer. And he understands what we want. And having someone in the lead spot that makes the big decisions, you want a guy like that. You want a guy that's not only very smart in the in the business room, sitting around talking business and numbers. You want a guy that's confident to get out there on stage and have a swagger like he's had since the Game Awards. And you also want that same person that has all of this great stuff going for him, but at his core, he's a diehard gamer that tells stories about on the OG Xbox, he would sit with his daughters and play these games. That is why I'm such a big fan of Phil Spencer. But do you believe in coincidences, chat and panel? Because I certainly don't. And it seems like perfect timing when you think about what he has done in the last couple of months, coming up to, of course, the new Tokyo Game Show later this year. And you said it yourself. There are two particular games that come to mind that not only are still ultra popular, that are still played by millions, but bringing something new to something old is what Microsoft does best. And with the addition of Phantasy Star Online 2, right? That test that they did was not only successful, Zemi and chat, it was ridiculously successful. So much so that people that we personally know had their hearts broken when it was up. And I'm talking about several people that are on other shows as well as in this community. But it's not just Phantasy Star Online 2 for Japan, because that is going to bring people over, right? The creation of a quadruple A initiative type, Japanese studio that we've been hearing that they're working on, and the potential of buying another one in that region, but also Crossfire X in China, right? I mean not China, Korea. Yes, Korea is a huge market for gaming. And Crossfire X does not get any bigger. And the fact that it's being reworked and redone for the Xbox with up-to-date graphics and gameplay, and on top of that, on top of the multiplayer goodness that is still reigning supreme in Korea, you have Remedy Entertainment working on a brand new single-player campaign that's being added to the already stacked deck. Zemi, when you think about the two regions that they're going for, right? The Japanese market, which they failed. We already talked about that. And, well, listen, I can't say how many times they've gone to Korea and tried to put out games there, but I would imagine that just like the Japanese market, they probably failed there. But when you bookend the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, and then at the ends of those bookends, you have Crossfire X, which is tremendously still popular in Korea. Phantasy Star Online 2, which is still tremendously played in Japan. Do you think you have a winning combination?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, first off, you have to give, your future customers something that they want, right? And then you have to add value to that. And that's exactly what Game Pass does. It adds tremendous value, right? And so, to include games that, that those individuals in that market want to play and give them a good value, like, what we currently think would be $15 a month for xCloud, to play all of those games for $15 a month. I mean, that's tremendous value. And you're, once again, giving those customers the games that they actually, desire to play. And so, yeah, I mean, it just all fits together and it all works perfectly.
I mean, when you think about, XO last year, right? XO 19 comes out. A lot of people liked it. A lot of people like myself loved it. I think what they did there was awesome. It wasn't as campy as some of the other ones. But the announcement of all of these Japanese type games that the community as a whole, okay, see, and again, I want to stress this. Maybe Final Fantasy 14 or Kingdom Hearts 1.5 or 2.5 or 2.8, maybe that's not for you. But you have to understand that games like Yakuza 0, which just launched, and everyone's been taking pictures and putting in posting and saying they're loving the game, those were never on an Xbox ever before. And they are now. And people are playing them. They're enjoying them. And it's added to Xbox Game Pass. Now, granted, from what we've heard, they're selling Kingdom Hearts 1.5, 2.5, and 2.8 separately, which kind of sucks. I kind of thought that was actually going directly into Game Pass because that would have been great, but they're selling it. But here's the thing. There are tons of other, Japanese-based titles that will be making their way to Xbox Game Pass. And it's one of those things that this is not a coincidence, folks. This is purposely set up by Phil Spencer to make strides in these markets. And I got to tell you, yes, like Zemi, you were saying earlier, the PlayStation 5 is probably going to sell more consoles. And you're probably right with that. The only way I can see that happening is if Microsoft really goes balls to the wall with marketing so aggressive that they have two consoles out. One is 500, one is 300 in the Lockhart. And Sony actually comes out at 500 and they beat them on price and power. Maybe they don't sell as much. Maybe the market is 50-50. You know what I'm saying? Maybe because Microsoft has two boxes out, and as opposed to Sony's one, that they kind of keep neck and neck with them. I don't know. It's going to be a very interesting fall, to say the least. But look, let me just close this out with this, Zemi, because I don't want to spend too much time. We have so much to cover. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there was a lot to unpack here, but it seems all of the trips that Phil Spencer was taking to these Asian markets was extremely forward-thinking and looks as if it's going to pay off big time. What are your final thoughts on Project xCloud succeeding in markets that the Xbox brand has traditionally failed? Do they have a shot with everything Phil Spencer has been doing to the lead up of the launch of these new consoles?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think whenever we first heard about xCloud, a lot of people were scratching their head thinking, okay, how is this actually going to work or be implemented into gaming? And as time goes on and as we see what Xbox is doing, I think it was several, months ago that, we really even first started thinking about how xCloud could be used in the Asian market and how amazing of an idea it was and how it made so much sense that, it had to be true. Right. And as time is, went on, we've just seen more details and more information that kind of even goes further in confirming that Xbox is planning to do a major push into the Asian market, and xCloud is their main tool to do so, right? So I'm excited to see what xCloud does. I'm excited to see how Xbox is going to market xCloud in the Asian markets and how it's going to be, how the reception of it is going to be, and I think it's almost a foolproof plan. Of course they're still going to be facing competition with Nintendo, right? But the games that Nintendo offer and the games that Xbox offer are completely different. They're in some ways they're for different, player bases. But I think it really stands an extremely strong chance of working in that market. And, ultimately it's good for, it's good for the industry as a whole. And it's exceptionally well for, gamers like me and you, because that just means Xbox is going to make more money if they succeed in that market. And they're going to be able to put that money into potentially buying new developers or making, newer, newer games or evolving Game Pass and ways that we haven't even thought of for them to do. So, ultimately, I'm excited for it. I can't wait to see how well or how they do in that market, and I think it's going to have a lot of benefits for everyone.
Yeah, real quick, as we get ready to move on to, of course, the next topic, I got to thank a couple of people. First of all, Basement Radio Arcade Podcast. Enrique drops a very generous $2 super chat. He says, "Boom! I hope you're feeling well about." Yes. If you didn't know, I was supposed to be a guest last night, and I felt so ill yesterday that I just didn't have it in me to spend sitting in front of a chair for 2 hours. Today, I feel okay, but I'm not like sick like I was with the flu. I just feel out of sorts. so to speak. So thank you for the well wishes and, of course, the generous super chat. And Spider-Man, thank you for being here, bud. Really appreciate it. He drops a $5 super chat, and he says, what are your thoughts about the rumored Blue Point next game being a Tenchu remake instead of Dark Souls for the PS5? Is that not a blow to Sony fans? You know what's funny? We are going to be talking about. He says. He says. Well, I think he meant Tenchu because there was a rumor that popped up just yesterday. It's a good friend of the show and internet sleuth, unlike anybody's ever seen. The Finest sent me a picture of a leak that Blue Point's second game apparently was going to be a Tenchu remake where it included the trilogy from the PlayStation, and that of course consisted of Tenchu 1, 2, and 3. Now, I don't know how many people in the chat actually enjoyed the Tenchu games, but I can tell you for an absolute fact that they were fantastic. And if that's what they're working on, that's a great launch title. Now, how long it would stay an exclusive, I honestly don't know. The only way it stays a permanent exclusive is if obviously Sony owns the rights, which I don't think that they do, for Tenchu. I don't think that's first party. I don't think it's ever been first party because I believe that's been on multiple consoles. But if they, if they actually, paid money to actually have the series, I don't know. I can't get into the weeds of it because I don't know the particulars. There was very little to no information, but I'll put it this way. We're going to be talking about Bloodborne tomorrow on Breakfast with Boom. So tune in for that. We'll break it down what exactly it means. Real quick, Corey Polo. Wow, dude. First of all, thanks for being here. Really appreciate that. He drops a very generous $10 super chat and says, good job, Broham. Well, thank you for the super chat. And also, thanks for being here, dude. I really appreciate that. But as you can see, we're going to be talking about Halo Infinite. And as you can read on the screen, we do have some new information that got Zemi very excited. Now, the reason why I wanted to bring up this as topic number 2 is for a good friend of the show, someone that is a major supporter, Shenshu Elite, who I have to say has been a defender of the Halo brand. And sometimes when we talk about Halo negatively, he gets a little down. And he has messaged me in the past privately, and I won't discuss what we've talked about, but he is a big Halo fan. So this one is really looking at you, Mr. Elite, because the new information that we have is exciting. And I'm going to say this. I won't curse because I have it in my show notes. Is holy F. If this is true in any way, the new Halo or rebirth of Halo, the franchise, the long-running franchise in Halo Infinite, is going to have everyone that is a fan of not only Master Chief, but the Xbox brand dancing in the streets. Now, a new Halo leak has been making the rounds, and I haven't seen many people talk about it. See, again, here's the thing. I will, as a very small YouTube channel, take chances. Again, if I am wrong, I will be the first one to come out live on the show and be like, you know what, guys, I got it wrong. My information was incorrect, or I jumped the gun on something. Because I don't have a problem with that. But I am going to say that this is based on information that I got from Generación Xbox. They are a Spanish website, and they're on Twitter, and I do follow them. And I thought the information that they had, according to the author, who are, again, if you, I'll add the link in the show notes if you want to go and read it. Especially if you have it on Google, it will translate it for you. I thought it was interesting. And the reason why I brought this up is because not only did D Black Raven bring this to my attention, once again, the detective sleuth known as the Finest has also sent me this. And I'm like, this is too good to be true not to talk about, especially because, listen, folks, Halo, regardless of whether you love it, hate it, or you kind of feel a little, lukewarm about it, is not only a flagship title for Microsoft, it is one of the flagship titles of the entire gaming industry. And I put that up there with the Marios, the Lara Crofts, the Nathan Drakes, the God of Wars, the Marcus Phoenix. He is a character that has transcended not only gaming, not only anime. We do have a show coming out, an original series on Showtime. I believe that launches, I think, next year, if I'm not mistaken, or later this year. And of course, the games, which we've seen tons of them. And, there is I don't think there's any more bigger Xbox fan than me saying that I am banking on 343 Industries completely knocking this out of the park. I think that they understand that Halo as a brand stands for Xbox. I think they understand the importance of Master Chief, what he means to the millions of fans. But I think more so than anything, because this is going to be at the forefront of the Xbox Series X launch in November, supposedly, it is unbelievably important. Now, I'm going to bring up the picture. Let me just see if I could find it real quick of exactly what was in this leak. Let me see if I could bring that up. Where are you? There you go. Here we go. Here, folks. This is pulled directly from their website. And this is, of course, some of the information you'll know, some of the information you will not. Now, I will say this. In the past, there have been, when you talk about 343 Industries, Emmy, a lot of people really enjoyed Halo 4's campaign, did not like the multiplayer. When you get back to Halo 5, which made bank, I mean, it just made tons and tons and tons of money. It is not a failure by any stretch of the truth. I will say this, though. Not my favorite Halo, not even in the top 5. I did not enjoy the campaign. I felt it took me nearly 18 months to finish it because every time I played it, I felt like I was walking through molasses. Not because the game was slow, because it felt like a chore to play. Because I was uninterested in the Team Osiris, whereas I really wanted to play as Master Chief. And even though the Osiris, crew, they all have great backstories. Locke is an interesting character. In my opinion, he is not a lead character and should not have been given 8 out of the 11 chapters to use. I'm sorry. If you disagree with me, I hear you, but I want to play as Master Chief. Now, Zemi, you see what I put on the screen. And that chat obviously sees what I put on the screen. It says fall 2020 release window. Obviously, we knew that already. The standard file size will be 60 gigabytes, 4K uncompressed file size, which is potentially 120 gigabytes. That makes sense. It's going to be a big game. But this is where we get into the excitement factor. 3 separate campaigns. One using Master Chief, yes. One using Locke, I'm okay with that. And another campaign, a third one using Jerome 092. 2 separate multiplayers, one classic and one with new movement plus Forge. And the last one is modular installation method on all 6 features, no mention of theater mode. Okay, so let's break this down. Now, Zemi, when I sent this to you, you immediately wrote me back, and I could tell that you were excited. What does this particular screenshot tell you, before we get into more rumors, of the new Halo Infinite from 343 Industries?
Well, if it's true, it tells me that, 343 is definitely listening to a lot of feedback from the Halo community, and they're going out of their way to try to give everybody what they specifically want as much as they can. That's kind of what it tells me, giving the people who want classic movement, giving the people who want new movement. If somebody really liked, Locke's storyline, they get to experience that in its own single player campaign. If somebody prefers Master Chief, they get Master Chief, right? If somebody, I guess, hated Master Chief, how dare you? And hated Locke, I understand you. Well, there's Jerome now too. You know what I mean? So if this is true, it just tells me that 343 is definitely taking an interest into community feedback, and they're trying to give, something for everyone, if that makes any sense. You there, Boom?
To add my yes, I hit the wrong button. Yes,
Oh, okay.
it does actually make sense. It makes perfect sense. But let's get into some of the other information I was able to pull. Okay, now obviously we have to take this with a grain of salt because this is not official. Microsoft will not comment on this. I would imagine that it's funny. There's been a lot of talk recently now, on especially on social media with Twitter. One guy, I'm not going to mention who it is because I think he's a boob, wrote that Xbox players and Halo fans should be concerned because we haven't seen much from 343 Industries as of late. And I'm thinking to myself, well, when you look, they obviously showed the environmental trailer. And then last year they showed, what seemed to be a CG kind of, with Chief floating in outer space. He gets brought in, he gets powered up, he's ready to go. Trailer ends. I think that right now the big reveal, the gameplay reveal, if I was a betting man, the safe bet, so you don't lose any money in your pocket, is going to be E3 2020. Again, hopefully E3 happens with everything that's going on. But I have a funny feeling that if this so-called reveal event happens in April, like has been rumored, man, would it not be pretty dope? Would it not be industry destroying if Microsoft not only gave us price, not only gave us hardware specs on both the Series X and S, the younger brother, but went out there and showed one or two games? Not a lot. Don't take E3 and make a mini E3. We don't want that. But the way that they have been going, the bold new Microsoft that has completely taken over market share, could really put Sony in the corner if they did an event and they showed Halo and they showed gameplay. I don't want to see any CG trailers. But here's what the article had to say. The new rumor ensures that Halo Infinite would have 3 campaigns and offer exciting data. And what the hell that means, I have no idea. These are not only, it says here, these are not only data that can be extracted from the extensive post, but there apparently is going to be 32 playable stages are guaranteed. And some of the events will be unified, and this is where it gets good, with Halo Wars 2 and the recent novels. It also seems that the Master Chief campaign, listen to this, folks, does not close the story of Halo Infinite. Now, I said that out loud, and I'm going to be honest with you. I just got goosebumps because, look, there are going to be some folks that when I say this, your ears are going to bleed. So plug them now. This reminds me a lot of Destiny. And I'm not saying that I want Halo to be Destiny. What I'm saying is that it would be pretty dope and a change of pace for the Halo franchise to have an ongoing story that could be told until the next big, epic Halo Infinite 2, 3, whatever it's going to be. Zemi, when you hear this, the potential of 32 playable stages, that says that this is going to be a big world. When you hear that Halo Wars 2 is the story behind that fantastic game with one of the greatest bad guys of all bad guys in Atriox, right? He could be potentially coming into the fold. Some of the recently released novels have told some epic Master Chief stories. And more importantly, that the campaign will not close the story of Halo Infinite tells me a lot. This is a small paragraph, but again, maybe it's my imagination going crazy. Maybe it's my love of Master Chief and the Halo universe completely going out of whack. But this tells me that not only could this potentially be the biggest Halo game ever released, it's going to be a story that's going to continue through the potential of upgrades in DLC. What are your thoughts on all of this information from Xbox Generation?
Well, I mean, one of the comments that I read, that I don't remember the name of the person, unfortunately, but he actually asked, but how long is each campaign going to be, kind of thing, right? And I've actually thought of that as well. And to hear that, there's going to be 32 different stages across, like, technically, like, across, like, all of them, I guess. That just, that has me excited, first place, because it does seem like we're going to get a lot of content out of the Master Chief and out of Locke and out of Jerome, right?
Right.
But then to add in that there are plans, potentially to extend that story even more, and via like DLC. I mean, that just gets me even more excited. I mean, you know how much I like story, right?
Right.
And and one of the biggest reasons why I love Halo is because of the story. I mean, I enjoy the multiplayer. I enjoy getting in and playing the multiplayer, but I really, really, really enjoy the story mode, and that's always probably my favorite aspect of the Halo games. Whenever I buy one, I immediately play the campaign before I play the multiplayer. And that's true for all the games except, for Halo 5. I didn't finish that story mode for like 2 years or something. But I so long as the story is good, it has me really, really excited, because I love Master Chief. I love the character, and the more I get of it, the better it is.
Look, I'm going to say this, that, obviously there is a reason why 343 Industries have been quiet, right? Again, I don't want to get into a console war bullshit, because we don't do that on this shows. We don't do that on any of my shows. But it is kind of frustrating when you see folks who don't give a shit about Halo getting out on social media and talking about it, that we haven't seen anything, when there was a time, if I recall correctly, that you could not get a peep out of Naughty Dog regarding The Last of Us 2. Now, recently we've seen some new trailers. We've got, they're constantly in the news. The game's coming out in May, so of course they're going to get out in front of it, and it's going to be a big title for the PlayStation 4. And of course, there's going to be an upgraded version, I would imagine, for the PS5. It seems viable. But it is frustrating to see. And again, I understand that, if Halo 5 was a complete flop, if that came out and it sold horribly, which it didn't, it was poorly reviewed, which it wasn't. Now, granted, yes, the community as a whole is very divided on whether or not the campaign was good. Some people were like, you know what, Boom, you are wrong. The campaign was great. I loved Locke. I loved Team Osiris. And you know what? The time I had with Master Chief, it was good enough for me. And if you're one of those folks, I say good on you. For me, personally, I would have rather it been 8 Master Chief levels, 3 Locke levels. That's how I would have done it. I don't understand why they decided to go in that direction. But again, I'm just a podcaster. What the hell do I know? I don't design games for a living, so I can't really say. But I am going to say this. If I was being honest, and I am being honest live here on the air here, I have complete confidence in 343. I have complete confidence in that team, that they are going to deliver a very different but the same Halo, with all the bells and whistles that we could expect for your new Xbox Series X. They've already talked about it. I know we've heard some chatter about, well, Boom, the Xbox OG is going to hold it back. And we know that that is not true. We know that they're designing the new Halo around the new hardware. And of course, if you still have some of the old hardware, you will not get the maximum experience. And I think if you're playing it on the X, you're going to be good. But if you're playing it on an old fatback, well, you might want to upgrade. I'm just saying. But as we close in on the end of this particular topic, for you, Azemi, and I'm interested to hear what the chat has to say as we almost close in on 300 people watching. So thank you, everyone, for being here. And of course, if you're new, welcome. Regardless of what flag you fly, you are always welcome here. Be nice in the chat, and everything will be good. And if you're enjoying the show, please hit that like button. I would greatly appreciate it. But Zemi, I want to get you. I don't think I've ever really asked you this. For you as a gamer who appreciates story, who lives for the story. For someone that has been a fan of Master Chief, who has played through all of the games, do you yourself have confidence, I should say, that 343 Industries understands how important this game is and that they are going to do everything in their power to make this the premier Halo of all time?
I really don't know. I mean, I think that they do understand community feedback, and I think that they do understand that this is a extremely important game to get right, especially with the launch of the new systems, right? But, with that being said, I don't know if I have the confidence in them or not. I mean, this is only a rumor, I think I would honestly have to wait until I actually see gameplay and I see them, talking on the big stage about the game and what they, like the new features that they've implemented and stuff like that before I can actually sit there and say that I have really confidence in them. But I think that they are listening to the community, and they're going to try to, do their best on Halo Infinite.
Yeah, I mean, look, right now, all we could do is hope for the best, right? I mean, listen, it seems like the world through the first trailer, where it really kind of just looked at the wildlife and the different scenery. It looks like we're going to get a much wider open Halo. And I'll say this, and I got booed pretty badly, actually, when I went before we actually had all the release of Gears 5. I would get on the air and I would say, you know what, my Gears 5 needs to look like this, and I got what I wanted. I got an open world or semi-open world. I got to explore Sarah. I got to explore different regions. Some were snow, some were fire, some were just regular burnt out buildings. I think what the Coalition crafted, they kept it very close to to what we know and love about Gears, but they added exactly what I wanted. They added the ability to explore and to look for side missions, and the skiff opened up tremendous possibilities on being able to traverse that world and look. I mean, for me, I looked at every nook and cranny. It's again, all the time I have in that game, it's all single player. It's no multiplayer. I'm just not a big multiplayer fan for Gears. That's just me. But when you talk about Halo, obviously we have to look back to Halo Combat Evolved, which actually, by the way, was just stealth dropped onto PC. And I don't know how many people in the chat are actually playing it. I don't have a PC strong enough to play it, so I'm not playing it. But it was very close quarters, fighting. You had corridor fighting, which of course a lot of people enjoyed. And for me, we enjoyed those corridor-based fights through Halo 1, Combat Evolved, Halo 2, Halo 3. We saw some of it in Reach. We saw a lot of it in ODST, which was another fantastic game. That even Chief wasn't involved, but was great. And I as much as the corridor fighting that we all know and love is important to the franchise, I think that we need to open the window and get some air in here, if you know what I mean. And I think being able to, one of the things I really liked about Combat Evolved is the areas where you can just take the Warthog and drive around. They were big, they were vast. There weren't any collectibles or anything back then, but the fact that the world felt big, and I think that I want Halo Infinite to feel bigger. I don't want it to be Destiny per se. I don't want 3 Master Chiefs jumping around and dropping superpower bombs on people. But I would like something different in the next Halo. And again, maybe that's sacrilegious. I don't know. Zemi, do you agree that? Well, you know what? Not even so much agree. What do you want from Halo Infinite? What, as a fan of the brand, what do you want to see 343 bring to the table?
I mean, I would be perfectly fine with open worlds. I really would. But I want those open worlds to be extremely well detailed. I want us to have a lot of content to do in them. And I want them to be true to, to the Halo, to the Halo universe, but I mean, ultimately, I'm relatively not too picky, right? I just want a good campaign that, from all the characters, right? From Master Chief to Jerome to Locke, I want a good, solid campaign. And I want a good multiplayer too, but I'm not really specifically, I guess, looking for one thing or another. I do expect them that they will change a lot of aspects of Halo, but at the end of the day, I think like the number one thing for me is I want it to still be a Halo game, right? I want to still be able to play it and think I'm playing Halo. The same way that, whenever I played Gears of War, I didn't necessarily agree with their open world environment, how they did it. I thought it was kind of lacking a lot of content. There's a lot of open space with not a lot to do, in my opinion. There wasn't really anything that made me, like want to go out and do certain things. But at the end of the day, that game still felt like Gears of War. And I think that that's one of the most important things, I guess, for me, is at the end of the day, it's fine if they want to include new features, maybe an open world or whatever it may be. But I think that they definitely need to keep it grounded to what Halo is and what Halo has been, and just make an amazing story.
Yeah, I mean, let me ask you this. First of all, let me catch up with the super chats. JD Gamer, first of all, dude, thank you so much for being here. He drops a very generous $5 super chat and says this: do you think Halo should be split into 3 games, first person, RTS, and squad based TPS? We've had most of these game types already, but what if they announced it? Whew, wow. I never even put that into a same sentence. I'm going to be honest with you. And not only is it's a very thought-provoking question, but I have to be honest here. I have to be honest. If they did something wacky like that, I think people would fucking riot. Pardon my French. I really do. I think that, again, there were a lot of people. I loved Halo Wars 1 and 2, but I'm not the biggest RTS kind of guy. Like, I'm looking forward to Gears Tactics. Back in the days, what got me into RTSs, and this is people are not even going to remember this. This game is worth like $300 or $400 on eBay right now. There was an Aliens versus Predator. I think it was called Extinction, if I remember. That launched. It wasn't exclusive. I think it was on the PlayStation 2, but it was on the OG Xbox. I still have the copy, and it was, oh my god, it was so great. I wish that would come to backwards compatibility. I would shit my pants and play it like it was new. You could play as the Predator, you could play as the Marines, and you could play as the Aliens. It was absolutely incredible. So that is what really got me into RTS. I played the Lord of the Rings ones on the 360. I enjoyed those. And of course, I enjoyed Halo Wars 1 and 2, and I'm looking forward again to, of course, Gears Tactics. I think that if they forced the gamer, the fan of Halo, to have to play through these levels in that format, people would be upset. This has to be. Let me see if I can get the wording right on this. This has to be as traditional Halo as you can get, with new features that somehow spring forward what you loved about Halo in new ways. Now, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be honest. Putting 3 shows together weekly without missing a beat puts a significant amount of pressure on me. In fact, it takes a lot of my gaming time away. And I'm not saying that because I don't like doing it. I freaking love doing it. But what my point is I don't necessarily know if I would want to be a part of 343 Industries right now, because the pressure that's upon them, Zemi.
Yeah, I most certainly would not want to be.
Unbelievable. And I'm going to tell you this, and I will reiterate this later this year when the game comes out. If they release a modern day masterpiece, a rebirth of the Master Chief, the franchise, the flagship franchise of the Xbox brand, and it winds up hitting like it's a 93 meta, and everyone's cheering in the streets. You, as a fan, better get out there and thank them publicly. Let 343 Industries know that holy shit, what you guys and gals did completely made me shit my pants in delight, because it is what's in the task in front of them is just, it's not to be believed. Real quick, JD Gamer drops an additional $2 super chat. Thank you for your generosity. He says, no, not as one game, but as 3 continued series of games. And you see, now that's interesting. See, that's very interesting. Now, if it was in fact 3 different types of games, it would certainly open up the potential to attract new players for sure. But the problem with that, JD, is that there are so many people, even in this chat right now, as we close in on 300 folks watching the show, that never played Halo Wars, right? And never would play Halo Wars because it's a genre that has little to no interest to them. So if they were telling that story through the eyes of 3 different games, I think that you would lose the ability to tell a good story, because there was going to be a portion of your community that would not want to play that game. And I'm not saying everybody. I'm saying there's a good portion of everybody, even the 300 people in the chat, that would be like, yeah, RTS, not for me. Boom, I'll skip it, even if it's a Game Pass. I don't want to play because it's just not for me. So, I mean, what's your answer to that?
Well, like, I wouldn't want to see like the same story being spread through 3 different, game types, right? But I would love to see. I mean, obviously, I think the first person Halo storyline should be kept to to the first person shooter like genre, right?
Right.
But I loved Halo Wars, like the very first one. I really have not played very much of the second one. I played a little bit of the beta. It just didn't really seem. It was a lot differenter than Halo Wars 1, and I didn't really like how like the leaders worked, and how like a lot of like the the game aspects worked. And then like I heard about them coming out with like the little card system. Like you would get like these little cards, and you would use the cards in game to have like certain characters pop up or whatever, and that just didn't really interest me. So I kind of skipped out on a lot of Halo 2 or Halo Wars 2, but I absolutely love the first game, and I think if they ever came out with a third game, and if it looked good, I would definitely jump into it the same way I jumped into Halo Wars 1. And then the squad based like third person shooter, I love that idea. I think it would be amazing if they came out with like a Halo game where you play as a Marine, kind of similar to how they did with ODST, but instead make it like a third person shooter where you're playing as a Marine. I think that would be absolutely fantastic as well, or something. So I think that there's a room in the market for for more Halo Wars or RTSs, or even a third person shooter. But I definitely think that there should always be the emphasis put onto the first-person shooter. And if they did do this, I think that they would definitely need to split up 343 like into like little teams, or maybe possibly purchase another studio that will be dedicated on making Halo content that's not the main first-person shooter, if that makes any sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
I would be perfectly fine with it, but I wouldn't want to see the story of like for instance, like Halo 1 story, be a first-person shooter, and then Halo 2 story be an RTS, and then Halo 3 story be a third-person shooter. I wouldn't want to see that. But I have no issue with them continuing to bring out different stories being told in different ways with different game types.
Yeah, real quick, I just want to actually shout out a couple of people. First of all, Rain G4 drops a $2 super chat. Thank you for being here, dude, and of course your generosity. He says, "Would you like a Gears/Halo Telltale game?" Yes, I would. Absolutely, because you could really tell a great story. And it would be like one of those. It'd be almost be like a visual novel, if you will. I would definitely enjoy that. Bone Slave, thanks for being here, dude. He says episodic Halo. Nah, man, I can't with the episodic, because it's people are already freaking out about Final Fantasy VII, right? First of all, again, if you haven't played the demo, it's out on the PS4. Yes, I know it's an Xbox show, but I have a tremendous love for that game. I feel very sad that it's not coming out on the Xbox for a year. I got to be honest with you, because that's where I would want to specifically play it. I'm kind of forced to. I'm not going to wait. I'm going to play it twice. But you know, I'm worried about that title because it's Square, right? You're going to get, you know, part 1. It's going to be supposedly 60 hours. Do we get part 2 in 5 years? I don't know. So this, getting back to Halo, episodic, no. Now, telling the story beyond Halo Infinite that we're going to get in November, I'm not sure. Is
I think episodic could work in like a telltale, you know, interaction kind of thing. Like, I would love to see them like create like a telltale, you know, like storyline, or and maybe like you play as like an Oni like agent, like and maybe it's at like the time whenever like the Covenant is first coming out and Reach is happening and all this different stuff, and you're working behind the scenes to figure out what's happening and how Oni is reacting. Or possibly you could be working as like an Oni agent during the time of, you know, the you know, like the Spartan Project, where they're abducting, you know, children into this program to turn them into soldiers. You know, I think that would be really, really interesting, and kind of like a behind the scenes kind of view into how Oni operated. And
great point.
You know what I mean? Like, I think like little things like that would be fantastic. Like, you know, you see, like, you watch a lot of like their little mini television shows, or like their little mini movies, and they have absolutely fantastic storylines to them and everything. And I think that if they could do something similar to that, but in like an episodic Telltale like game, I think that would be fantastic, and I would buy it for sure.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, look, let's just say this. They haven't, a 343 has a tremendous task in front of them. There is a reason why this game has been in development. My God, when did Halo 5 release? Was that 2015?
You know, I've tried to forget, really.
Okay, all right. Well, that means I get
don't really remember. I think you're probably right. 25 or not 25. 2015. I would say 2015 was probably right. Maybe 2016.
So you know, from 5 to Infinite, it's 5 years, right? Yeah. There's a reason why the Slip Space engine cost $50 million. There's a reason why that particular engine is more than likely, if I again, this is complete speculation, town folks, is going to be used for, if it's successful, which I believe it is, because they would not have invested that much money into the engine if it was not successful, and they didn't believe in it. That engine could potentially be used for many of the Microsoft first-party games, which would be great. It is a monumental task that they have in front of them. I don't want to sound like an ass kisser here, but I have confidence in that team, and I think what they're going to do at the end of the day is really surprise a lot of people and bring back the Halo community. And I'm looking forward to it. I got to tell you, if there's one particular thing, which actually, you know what? Let me just hold that thought for a second, because I want to move on to the next topic, Zemi. Okay. And let me just bring up the banner for it. This one is pretty fun. And I'm sorry I don't have a ton of people on the panel. It's just me and Zemi today, which is fine, because this show has always run as a 2-man show before, so it's fine. But here's what I got to say about this. You know, as you know, with the next generation already in full swing, thanks to the new and bold Microsoft, who has completely changed the mindset of the entire industry with the reveal of the Series X in December, Senua's Saga, Project Mara, Everwild, Halo Infinite, Gears Tactic, and the inevitable release of Fable, Perfect Dark Reboot, State of Decay 3, Compulsion's BioShock / Uncharted title, Gears 6, and a host of other unannounced first-party titles. Quite frankly, there is a lot to be excited about to be an Xbox fan today. Now, this fun topic is something that I wanted to put together because, obviously when I'm writing these shows, sometimes there's not a lot of story. So you got to kind of get inventive. And I actually got scolded. Just, I mean, if you could believe this, I've actually had people write to me. And of course, what you would expect in the comment sections, there's a C for their picture because it's a Google picture with an anonymous, and they're being an asshole. And they're like, you know what, Boom? You gotta stick to the stories that are being written. Stop making up this stuff. And I think that if I did that, then I would be the same as many shows that you don't listen to because they're boring as fuck. And I try to be a little bit different. So in this fun topic, we're going to talk about the top 5 things that this outstanding community is super stoked for when you talk the next generation, which starts at the end of the year. My God, folks, we're already into freaking March. So here are my, you know what? Let me be a gentleman. Zemi, let me hear your first top thing, the top of the list for you personally that has you excited.
We're gonna take turns.
Yeah, and we'll take turns. Yeah, just because to read all 5 would be unfair, and then to get you in to read your 5. So I also want to hear from the community. What excites you? What is the thing that makes you jump for joy for Xbox and next generation? Put that in the chat. But go ahead, Zemi.
All right, well, first off, it's just more immersion in games. Like, I'm excited to see like the better graphics and the technology that will be put into our games with, ray tracing and all that different stuff. I'm still even today trying to understand how it works. And with all that new technology, we're going to get to see bigger, more detailed worlds with, shorter load times. And it's just going to drive the immersion really, really up there for me. For me, I cannot wait to play Elder Scrolls. I can't wait to play Cyberpunk on, my new next gen Xbox, because I think what this technology is going to do is just going to amplify the game so much than we've ever seen before. And so just more immersion in games has me really, really excited.
That's a really good one. That's strong. That's a strong point. Mine one is we just talked about it. The rebirth of the Master Chief and the Halo franchise. And it has been a long time since the Master Chief was at the tip of the gaming community's mouth. And it's about damn time for the big guy to take his throne back. I want to see this game succeed, not only for the Xbox community, not only for the Xbox brand, but more specifically for the thousands of people at 343 Industries that are putting their blood and sweat into what is going to be one of the biggest releases of 2020. Guys, but what's your next one, Zemi?
Well, the next one is that I'm just really excited about like all the RPGs, like the role-playing games that are going to be released, right? Because, Xbox now has In Exile, they have Obsidian. Outer Worlds was absolutely fantastic. I'm not super excited about Wasteland, but I just don't really like that, that version of gameplay.
That's what we're talking about. That's even more so than an RTS, right? I mean,
yeah. But they are working on other things as well. And then not even to add in Fable from Playground Games. I mean, I'm extremely excited about that. And maybe one day my one of my dreams will come true, and Obsidian will make like a remake of Alpha Protocol, or maybe like a remaster, if anything. I mean, just something, right? Because I love that game. So just all of the new RPGs that we're going to see come out has me super, super excited now that Xbox has a very strong interest in that genre.
Yeah, that's a good one, dude. That's a really good one. Again, thought provoking. Now this one over here, this is Fanboy 101. Okay, for my next one, and I don't know if this is true, and if it's not, it's going to be Broken Heart Boomstick. The official reveal of Killer Instinct 2, and yes, I know it has not been announced as of yet, but Phil Dominus Maximus Spencer knows how many people in the Xbox community really want a proper sequel to 2013's best launch titles. And listen, we got to call a spade a spade. Right now, the gaming or the fighting game genre, I mean, folks, we've had Street Fighter V, which in its new form is great. right? When it originally launched on the PlayStation 4, not so much. Tekken 7 was actually pretty good. Soul Calibur 6 also not bad. But man, Killer Instinct, even to this day, looks so good and is so fast. Man, to get a proper sequel with a bunch of new guest characters, which, they had some really good ones. I would love to see Master Chief. I'd love to see anybody that hasn't been in a fighter for Killer Instinct, be someone new for them. But that's my second pick. I really, as a fanboy of the game of that franchise, really want a proper Killer Instinct 2. Real quick, let me just catch up on a super chat that just came in. Game Genie Prime. First of all, thank you so much for being here, and of course, your generosity. He drops a $5 super chat and says this: I know I know I'm the only one, but I'd absolutely love if Azura's Wrath Game of the Year or GOW type reboot with, oh man, Azura's Wrath was dope, dude. Oh wow, I would take that in a second. And you know what, Capcom is, they've been really knocking it out of the park with their reboots. I would take an HD version of Azura's Wrath. I mean, it's available as backwards compatible, but an HD remaster on that to get those another 1,000 achievement points. If you've never played Azura's Wrath, man, try and pick that game up cheap. That game was dope. That was really that's a great throwback, dude. What is your number 3 pick, my friend?
Well, first off, I just kind of want to talk about yours. Like the fighting game, Killer Instinct 2, like they definitely need to do something with the fighting genre. Like,
yes, they
need to get a fighter.
Well, I mean, isn't it important to the portfolio? I mean, to have that.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, variety is key in the service, you know what I mean, and they do need a fighter. But I guess bounce back to what we're doing. My number 3 is just like xCloud and cloud technology and how it's going to be implemented in Xbox, because like I'm super pumped, for this technology. And I haven't got the chance to play with xCloud yet, but I'm really, really looking forward to it. Hopefully they add it to iPhones and to like all the different phone companies relatively soon, because I really, really want to try it out. But I'm also really excited to see how xCloud could possibly be implemented into your gaming console, because part of me still thinks that they might put xCloud on like the older hardware, like the older Xbox One consoles, to give those consoles almost like a new life, and to give people who don't want to upgrade and pay the money, a way to play on the older consoles, or possibly just playing it off of a smart TV. Like I think that will eventually come. So I'm really excited to see how that works, but I'm also excited to see how they further to use like the Azure servers and the cloud technology that they have to improve on their first party multiplayer, like what they did with Crackdown 3, with having the ultra sandbox environments where buildings were crashing down everywhere and all that different stuff. And so I'm just really excited to see how they implement that new technology with cloud networking into games to make them bigger and more unique, and do things in them that previously were just not able to be done with the hardware.
That's a great pick. I mean, I think that xCloud is going to play a bigger part than... See, like right now, Microsoft is quietly beta testing this, right? Like I've played it. I don't play it every day. I'll be the first one to say I'm part of the beta. I don't play it every day because I'm home. I play it on my console. I play sitting on my couch with my controller. If I had to go somewhere like a doctor's appointment, if I had to go sit somewhere where we're going to have to wait for a while, if I was on a plane, I would definitely be playing. I think there's 90 plus games available for it right now for free if you're in part of the beta, which is incredible. And they're quietly testing that. I think that once this thing becomes a full-on launch, you're going to hear about it everywhere. And I think it is going to be so important to next generation. And again, I'm hoping, I don't know how many people in the chat are part of the beta. I'm going to be honest with you. The phone attached to the controller, it works fine. It works fine. Personally, what I would like is And I know that Phil Spencer has already talked about this anyway. They're going to team up with third-party peripheral manufacturers
Mhm.
to, produce xCloud exclusive, I guess, holders. That have the buttons and everything. I mean, Razer has one. I actually, Mrs. Boomstead got it for me for Christmas, and it was weird. I thought it just opened up and you kind of put your phone in there, and that would have been great. No, you have to put it into a specific case, and the 3 cases they sent, I didn't have that phone, so I was screwed. I had to return it. So I'm hoping that they offer the ability to just kind of stretch it open, put your phone in there, and you're good to go. Because obviously it's going to be hooked up by either Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, so you're not going to have a problem. And I essentially wanted to look and feel kind of like the Switch, by using your phone. Or, I mean, again, this is really going into the weeds here. I don't necessarily know if this would happen, but I would certainly love it if a third-party manufacturer like a Razer actually released a device with its own screen that was used for, online games, but more specifically for xCloud. I'm not saying it's going to be the X-Boy or something. I'm saying that it could potentially be a device that they manufacture, and as a consumer like myself or like you, Zemi, we go out and buy said device, we put our information into said device, and it's a portable Xbox. I was hoping that that's what, if you remember a couple of months ago, we talked about my ridiculous theory, so out of space theory of Lockhart being a potential portable, which that's not going to happen. I mean, that was like, maybe I was hitting the sauce too much when I did that particular topic, Zemi, but that's what I would like. Anything else you'd like to add, Zemi?
No, I mean, I just think that the potential of this new technology is just extremely far-reaching, and how they can implement it to make, gaming more accessible to everyone. And just to kind of touch on what you were talking about with the X-Boy, like, we've already come up with the name. Like, they just need to hire us for their marketing team. They just don't know it, right? No, I think that makes a whole lot of sense, and I don't think that's too far off to think that they could possibly do that. I think it kind of depends upon how well it's received with people using their phones, and maybe just consumer feedback, and because if consumers want that device, I'm sure Xbox will jump on it and try to make it as affordable as possible, like $150 or something like that to get that. You know what I mean? Or however, affordable they could possibly make it. So yeah, I mean, that's a fantastic idea. And I don't think that that's too far off to seeing maybe happening in, the next, maybe a year, 2 years after the release of these consoles.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it certainly would give, again,
Pixel Bit G just said lawsuit ? With the X-Boy. Yeah, they may have to choose a different name, but
they would probably choose it. But it would not be Microsoft. It would be Razer doing it. Again, this is complete speculation town. Real quick, JD Gamer, who is outrageously generous, drops another $5 super chat and says this. Let me catch up to it. He says, "What exclusive third-party franchises do you think are most important for the Xbox platform, timed or content? Call of Duty, Fight for NBA 2K, Madden, GTA 6, etc." I'll let you answer that in a second, Zemi. I want to just touch on this. You see, here's the thing. I think what Microsoft is potentially doing, and again, this is pure speculation on my part, is that they need to return to the days of the Xbox 360. And what do I mean by that? The whole Call of Duty 1 month, exclusive DLC. I don't know if they should waste money on that. I'm going to be honest with you. I maybe because I don't play Call of Duty online, maybe it doesn't really matter to me. I think that the marketing deals for all of these games are important. I would be color me shocked if they got the GTA. They would have to really spend some serious bucks about getting that marketing, which I think they should. That would be the one. That would be the one that I would get out of everything. Going back to Call of Duty, I mean, do they really need it? I mean, if the Xbox Series X is the most powerful, it is running 12 teraflops, ray tracing, audio, video, RDNA 2, Zen 2, all the bells and whistles, and the PlayStation 5 is less powerful. I think that the if marketed correctly, people are going to play where it plays best. I mean, that's the reality of it. But I would love to see them start doing, and I know Zemi's against this. That's why I wanted to get his opinion second, because I know he does not like this. But the Xbox 360 saw a tremendous amount of second-party deals that were very lucrative for both the company and Microsoft and the Xbox 360. I would love to see a return to the aggressive behavior of that, and I think we're going to get it, because the same gentleman that was in charge of marketing back in the 360 is now the head of marketing for the Xbox Series X. So I think that we may see that aggressiveness return. But Zemi, you might have a different point of view on this question.
I do have a completely different point of view. My point of view is that I don't want them to go and get any, third-party content with, timed exclusives, right? I don't want that to happen. But, that's not what the question's about. The question is, what third-party franchises do I think are most important for Xbox to get, And, to answer that question, I think Call of Duty is a huge one. But to step a little bit beyond Call of Duty, I think getting that old, I guess it was like a license or maybe a marketing agreement or whatever it was with Major League Gaming. I think that is huge, because for the Xbox 360, at MLG events and stuff like that, they played the Xbox, right? So you had a lot of kids who wanted to become professional gamers. You had a lot of them playing on the Xbox, and if you really wanted to shoot for that, you played on the Xbox, and a lot of the competitive players, your nade shots, your scumps, whatever it may be, they were playing on the Xbox brand, and in a way that's pretty much like free advertisement, right? Because you have all of these very popular people, on social media, on YouTube, on Twitch, on whatever, that want to be competitive gamers playing on the Xbox console. And then whenever whenever this generation came out, it swapped over to the PS4 rather than, how it was with the Xbox 360. So I think that would, possibly be pretty important for them to try to get that marketing agreement or that license with MLG, to have their consoles be the console that these competitive gamers are playing on at these events. And then, of course, I think Call of Duty is a huge one, because so many gamers play it. It's still ultra popular. I think GTA would be a relatively good pick, but I think it would be way too expensive for them to try to get timed.
It would cost them a pretty penny, dude. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, really, honestly, and then you're looking at FIFA, NBA, Madden, all those games. Those games are good, but they only really last a year, right? Until the next one comes out, and Call of Duty does too, I guess. But, I don't know, maybe Elder Scrolls. I think Elder Scrolls might possibly be a big one. I know back in the day, like Xbox 360, I think Elder Scrolls released first on the 360.
Yeah, it did. Well, you know what it was back then? I think they were having problems with the cell technology.
They were having big issues with getting it ported over to the PlayStation. But with Skyrim coming out, and with the huge popularity of Elder Scrolls Online still to this day, I think it might be very beneficial for them to get exclusive content, with Elder Scrolls, and they do have a strong relationship with Bethesda as is. But really, any huge third-party game that isn't going to be astronomical for them to get timed content or marketing rights to, or whatever it may be, I think that they should probably shoot for. But at the end of the day, I disagree with the whole thing. But just speaking,
I kind of feel
speaking from their business perspective, I think that that's what they should do. But from my perspective, I don't want them to do any of that.
I mean, it makes sense, right? I mean, listen, from a business point of view, if you were to have games that were funded by Microsoft, like maybe a company, and we saw this happen with Capcom and Street Fighter V. Like, a lot of people don't understand the behind the scenes going on, what happened with that. That game was made on a shoestring budget. it was it would have never been made if Sony wouldn't have funded it. And it was a time when Capcom was on the ropes. I talk about this all the time because they're one of my favorite companies. 2016, not a good year for Capcom, man. They were on the brink of bankruptcy, and obviously 2017 RE7, the rest is history, right? Capcom is back, which is great. They're one of the best from the ashes Phoenix stories of this generation for sure. But that's why I don't think that Street Fighter 6, whenever it gets announced, is going to be exclusive to Sony, because Capcom understands that there are Xbox players, and quite frankly, they make bank with selling Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3. Now, maybe the marketing may go to Sony for again, it's speculation town, folks, for Street Fighter 6, but it's not, and I repeat, absolutely not going to be an exclusive, because the brand, dude, if you don't know, PS, by the way, Street Fighter 5 is the worst selling in the franchise history of Street Fighter on the PlayStation 4. And I don't think that Capcom wants to see that. But let me get to my number 3. My number 3 is a good one because the mere mention, Zemi and chat, of Microsoft's back catalog of IPs being used for the first time in what some of them would be a decade or more. And of course, I'm talking about the rumored reboot of Perfect Dark, the potential reimagining of Conquer. A Conquer reboot would be great. Revisiting Banjo-Kazooie. I'm going to keep beating that drum. I know, Colt Eastwood, if you're listening, you hate me right now. But yes, I want a new Banjo-Kazooie, damn it. And of course, older OG Xbox titles that have not been touched in years. And seeing the remake, even if it's a smaller title, Crimson Skies or Mech Assault, has me buzzing with excitement, Zemi. What is your number 4?
My number 4 is pretty much Game Pass. Like, Game Pass is, obviously already amazing. It's the, best thing since sliced bread, as you would say.
I like that.
but for me personally, I can't wait to see how they might evolve it to make it even better with time as, they enter into the Japanese market, as they, see growth, hopefully in that market. They're going to make a lot more money. They're going to have a lot more demand for certain things versus other things. So I can't wait to see, how that evolves and how that can produce more first party titles to jump on there. But I'm also really excited to see how they will, how they could possibly, and evolve it and get more third party companies to adopt Game Pass, similar, I guess like more of like in like a day and date way, if that makes any sense. Like, I would love to see how they could possibly evolve that to allow it to where, maybe we might see, Cyberpunk 2077 come day and date, if that makes any sense, and get more third party content on that platform. So
I want to add to what you're saying, because I think you not only do you bring up a very thought-provoking point, I kind of want to change my answer from earlier. You remember how I was like, get those second party, lock those deals down. Mm-hmm. But instead of, first of all, you know what? I have to talk about the super chat. First of all, Gamer by Choice drops a very generous $10 super chat. And he says this, and this goes, that's why I had to stop myself mid sentence. This goes exactly as to what I was just about to say. He says, I like getting marketing deals, but not timed exclusives. Letting everyone play the games at once. First party and second party exclusives are fine, but not timed, in my opinion. And I want to add to not only his point, not only your point, but I want to take back my answer, because here's the thing. Of course, I'm still in the camp of second-party deals because it was very, very exciting for the Xbox 360, and it brought a lot of business over to that console. But if you wanted to remove that off the table, I would say yes, only if in its place, what you just said, if Microsoft would spend those bucks on getting said third-party game day and date into Xbox Game Pass, not as an exclusive, but as a reward for the gamers or the consumers supporting Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. See, that would be a lucrative and important investment because you could get people to your service through saying, hey, Game B, GTA 6 in Game Pass day and date. People go and buy an Xbox for that. Oh, well, I'm buying Xbox now. It plays better. It looks better. And for $15 a month, I get to play the GTA 6 for, day one. That is where I think I could remove the second party exclusives that you don't like and trade it for an investment into these third-party companies by writing a very big check that has a lot of zeros. What do you think about that, Zemi?
Well, I mean, that's kind of like that's relatively my point about not liking second party and not liking, getting third party, exclusive time content. It's because that will cost money for Xbox, and that money I would rather see Xbox investing into their first party to come up with more games that I get to play, right? Or getting third party games like you just said, on Game Pass for me to play, without having to drop $60. And that's kind of like my whole point of not really liking second party games, getting them as exclusives. And then also not really caring for third party timed content. I would rather see that money being spent in different ways. And ultimately, maybe I'm just dumb, but I don't really think that timed content really makes the majority of people out there say, I'm going to buy an Xbox versus I'm going to buy a PlayStation. Maybe you're hardcore gamers that all they play is Call of Duty. That might be, the deciding factor for them. But I just don't really think timed content, for the amount of money that these companies probably pay for it, is really worth it at the end of the day to get people onto your platform. And I think that money could be better spent elsewhere, like what you were just saying, paying to have third-party games come to Game Pass day and date. Yeah.
Well, look, this is I love this. A lot of this is hypothetical talk, but it's also fun. I mean, folks, at the end of the day, gaming is fun, and podcasting is supposed to be fun. At least I hope that you're enjoying it. Real quick, a big shout out to Matt Burns. He says, I'm actually at 100%. Boom loves this stuff, and I think you mean by podcasting. He'll jump on because he's pumped. Yeah, listen, folks. I don't say this because I want a pat on the ass or I want you to write me a nice letter in the chat or I'm looking for accolades. I found when I started content creating in early and very late 2017 that doing the videos was fun, but was a tremendous amount of production work that for me, I just didn't enjoy. Getting behind the mic live where there is no room for mistakes. Now, do I make them? Shit, I make them all the time. But I like the pressure of having to perform, so to speak, for the 317 people that we had, the maximum number today in the in the chat. And I write these scripts, and I've found, and again, this kind of opening up my book of my past as a kid. When someone writes a great novel, you always hear about that person writing as a kid, writing stories. I was never a big writer as a kid. I mean, I read a lot of books. I just never really wrote a lot. And for me, again, looking into what makes me who I am, writing these shows is, for me, not for everyone, as exciting as having the controller in my hand. And I don't know why that is, but writing these shows, especially when it's original content pulled from my imagination or my love of said topic, is dude, I'm up 3 days a week writing past midnight, and I absolutely love doing this for the community because talking about gaming is the most. I got to be honest, folks. I've been gaming since 1978, and in the last 2 years, working with this community, providing a weekly show for you guys and gals to enjoy, tickles me pink to my core. It really, really does. But let's get back on track here. Enough about my ridiculousness. Zemi, what is your number 5 on the list?
Did you do your number 4?
Did I do my? No, you know what? I skipped myself. You see, I just made a mistake live on the air. Holy shit! Okay,
it happens.
This one is a little bit of a bullish one, if you will. The 12 teraflops of power, the Zen 2 processing power, the all-time record-breaking RDNA 2 power, audio and video ray tracing, along with SSD usage in an Xbox console for the first time, will bring console gaming to not only new heights, and this one, I'm going to finish this off, Enrique, this is for you, will bring us up to the level of the PC master race community for a 10th of the price. And I cannot wait to say that I just paid $500 or maybe potentially $400 for my Xbox Series X, and you, Mr. and Mrs. PC Master Race, paid $3,500 for your rig. This is where I stick my tongue out like a child and laugh as I hold my controller. Anything you'd like to add to that, Zen?
No, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, the value is unheard of. Like, still to this day, I don't really know if I believe that it's going to have the power of the 2080, right? I really don't know. I hope it does. Every single part of me hope it does. You know what I mean? But I really don't know. And that's one thing I can't wait to see, right? But regardless of that, I think that this is the closest that console gaming has ever been to what you can get, by playing on a high budget PC, right? And I think for that reason, it's extremely, exciting for a lot of us, right? I mean, this is the first time that we're ever going to get, really ray tracing, like true ray tracing on a console, right? And that's extremely exciting. This is a lot of firsts for, the console industry. And like I said before, it is the closest that I believe that we've ever been to getting, that same PC feel, and we're going to be paying a fraction of the price to get that. So I think it's extremely exciting. Yeah.
Okay. Well, listen, what is your number 5?
Well, my number 5, I mean, it's kind of dumb. Okay. But one thing that just really gets me I just excited, and I don't even know why, but it's the newness of everything, right? I just think the release of a new console is just exciting in general. Not, obviously, it's exciting for a lot of things, but, completely disregarding all of the new technology that we'll get, all the new games that we'll get, and everything. Just the feeling of a new console coming out is just exciting for me. And that might be dumb, or some of you guys might understand where I'm coming from, but I just love going out and getting that brand new console, coming home, plugging it in for the very, very first time, opening up that box and seeing that shiny new console that doesn't have any dust on it because I'm too lazy to wipe down my console. It's just great, right? And I just love just the atmosphere of it, right? Hearing everybody, on social media, on YouTube, on whatever it may be, comment sections of YouTube videos talking about their excitement and the little things that they're discovering that this console does that their old one didn't, right? I just think it's, just the joy of it in general is just kind of addicting to get into, and the newness of everything is just really exciting.
Well, I got to tell you, dude.
It's kind of dumb. It really is.
I actually don't think it's dumb at all, as a matter of fact. I think that what you're saying is looking at it from a fan's perspective, and I think that is super exciting. Here's my 5th one. My 5th one is it may be kind of boring for some people. First of all, let me catch up with another super chat from JD Gamer, who apparently has very deep pockets. Dude, thank you so much for your outstanding generosity. He says this: casuals are the 20 to get you the 80, and they often don't even know a game is available for a platform if it was originally a timed exclusive for another. You know, it depends on the marketing, dude. I mean, we saw several times where Microsoft, there were a multi-plat game for both the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox were released, and because of the aggressive marketing of Sony, there were people that would swear up and down, oh no, that's PlayStation 4 exclusive. I didn't know Xbox had that. So I think that if they're going to, if they're going to be the same aggressive Microsoft that they were in the 360 days, you're going to see a lot of marketing deals. You're going to see a lot of commercials. You're going to see a very different Microsoft. And I think that even though Phil Spencer publicly admits that the showing of the Xbox Series X came from an intern, that he wasn't even happy with the idea, and then he thought about it. And look, folks, you know, I know who she is. Her name escapes me. I just started following her on Twitter. I actually wrote to her, hoping to get her on the show as a guest. That hasn't transpired as of yet, but that's fine. It would all it takes is someone to, you know what they say, like it takes a snowflake to make a snowball, and it rolls downhill, and it comes bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's just this big massive mountain of a ball coming down that just crushes everything in front of it. That's how I kind of look at Microsoft now. Like, yes, they lost this generation poorly. Badly. And regarding their marketing, you know, they did it poorly. Let me just say that. Well, I was very vocal about their marketing, and this is a very different and exciting time for Xbox fans. I think this is what we've been waiting for. Before I get to my fifth one, I have to thank Joe Bailey. Thanks so much for being here, dude. Really appreciate that. He drops a very generous $20 super chat, and he says, thanks, Boom, really enjoy your shows at work. Well, hey, dude, that's great that you could actually listen while you're working. I hope that I make your work day, at least for 2 hours, fly by. But my fifth one, again, might be boring, but I'm going to say it anyway. Games, and more games. That's what I want from Microsoft in the next generation. And this new and bold Microsoft means to erase the mistakes of the past, and they will not be making them in this generation. First party will be thriving with the 15 plus Xbox game studios that have the potential to grow even bigger in the coming years. That is my number 5. What do you think about that, Zemi?
I like it, man. I like it. You know what I have actually been thinking about as we're going over these is like what gets you excited. Like, we haven't had really any other, like some things kind of cross over, right? But everything is distinctly different. You know what I mean? Like, there's not really any repeating going on. But as far as the first party, yeah, absolutely. I mean, games, and more games. I mean, that's the reason why we buy these consoles. You know, we don't buy them to watch Netflix. I mean, 2013 PR, fail thought, we wanted to see nothing but sports, right? And that's a huge reason why Xbox failed this generation. Because they just, they didn't, I guess, recognize why we actually buy a gaming console, and it's all for the games, and the more games, the better. So I 100% agree with that, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. I agree. I think that look, let's call a spade here, folks. One of my favorite lines, and of course, you can see that if you are a channel member, you can put a spade as your little your picture in the super in the chat. The one thing though, look, they had games, folks. All right, they just didn't have the big AAA blockbusters that we saw come out for Sony. Now, granted, Sony in the beginning did not have them. The Order 1886, even though I loved that game, did not do well commercially, did not do good with the reviews critically. But they did have some really, really big ones. We talk 2018, we talk 2019, not so much. Because I didn't like Days Gone, and and depending on if you like, oh my god, I forgot the name of the game. They released a couple of titles in 2019, they weren't reviewed the best. Their standout year is 2018, right? God of War is right at the top. Detroit Become Human, Spider-Man, right? All great games. 2020, folks, they got some bangers. Even though I don't like that term, they got some big ones, right? They got some Ghost of Tsushima, which we're going to talk about tomorrow. Just got an official release date. There's a big game trailer that if you're interested, you can go and check that all the websites are reporting it. We're going to be talking about that. I'm adding that to literally the show at tomorrow's show as we speak to open the show because I'm really looking forward to that game. You have, again, Last of Us 2. Microsoft is positioning themselves and has positioned themselves through aggressive behavior unlike we've ever seen before, with owning and operating 15 studios for the Xbox Game Studio division. And man, Zemi, I'm going to say this. One of the bigger things missing from Microsoft's portfolio, other than a proper Killer Instinct 2, let me lead with that, is RPGs, right? We haven't seen any of them, and people like the JRPGs, but that's not what they're calling for. The Xbox community, there is a small portion of it, and that's great if we get them. But the larger, more massive part of the community want to see those Witcher-type experiences, and we're going to get those in spades. Not only are we getting a new Fable, not only are we potentially getting a new IP that's kind of like Skyrim from Obsidian, which is holy shit. I can't wait to see what that looks like. But we're hearing, and we're not going to talk about it now. We're going to talk about it next week's show because I have to dig up some more information on it. Apparently, In Exile, which we're going to talk about next, but not this particular part of the topic, is that they're working on a third-person RPG. Okay, and that is a big deal. Now, real quick, let's move on to the next topic because we've been on this for quite some time. This has been great. I hope everyone in the chat enjoyed it. I've been reading the chat. It's been a lot of banter, which is great. I love seeing that. But I want to move on, of course, to the next topic. And let me just bring up a new picture to put up over here. And let's see what do we got here. Well, one of the bigger games is this next week. I mean, it is not a topic, but I pre-ordered the collector's edition. I cannot wait to play this game next week. But let's move on to the next topic. Now, obviously, this came in late, but I have to talk about it because also, besides it involving Microsoft, kind of involves Sony in not a really good way. Now, if you didn't know, if you weren't keeping your ears to the interwebs, Sony Santa Monica's Dean Reimer joins In Exile Entertainment, and Xbox Studio continues to attract great talent. And if there's one thing, Zemi, that is blatantly apparent is that Xbox has been really raking in the talent in the last 18 plus months. Microsoft's first party division, I don't know what they're serving over there, whether it's free lattes and you get a piece of cheesecake with every one that you order. I don't know. I know that I would sign up for that because I like a nice latte and a nice slice of cheesecake, but that's me. Especially if it's cherry cheesecake like the missus knows how to make. I took pictures on social media a couple weeks ago, and I had the entire internet salivating. But getting back to the point, according to Windows Central, where I pulled this story from, Dean Reimer, who worked at BioWare and Sony Santa Monica, has joined In Exile Entertainment. Now, In Exile is now part of Xbox Game Studios, as we all know, right? That's, again, no ringing surprise here, folks. But more importantly is that this just proves that whatever they are doing at the Xbox Game Studios, they are going big. Because listen, folks, we've all saw the reports. We've all been watching all the big websites and even some of the smaller ones report on the talent that continues more specifically to come over. Now, obviously, they're working on Wasteland 3. Zemi already said that it's not his thing. I gotta be honest with you. may not be my thing. But what's important is Reimer was the lead combat designer, and he worked specifically on God of War. And it's, again, rumors are starting to float around that he has come over to In Exile to potentially work on a third-person RPG. This gets me excited. Now, the article continues with this. They are willing to bet that it's an unannounced project, and why this may in fact have some serious truth to it. It's because we've all heard that each team is working on multiple projects, In Exile included. There were rumors floating around that it's going to be a third-person role-playing game, but nothing is concrete and has been announced as of yet. Now, what's extremely interesting, Zemi, is the XGS brand went from not having quality and interesting Western RPGs to potentially having 3 to 4 in active development. And my God, if they are the quality that we are thinking, Microsoft, once again, is positioning themselves to win and win big. Now, I think this is great. And I think that this is the kind of story that boosts not only excitement within the community, not only the excitement that we have in the chat right now, but I think that if the games come out on a steady flow and they are good, like I suspect they're going to be, I even think that the gaming press at large is going to be a much different gaming press than they were in this generation. And who the hell knows, they could turn around and once again love Xbox. But Zemi, this is a two-part question. Number one is this. Being an Xbox show, let's talk In Exile and their latest hire and what that means for that team. But here's the second part, and this is where we're going to get into the weeds. Some people may not like this. We know that he is from Sony Santa Monica. He is now the third person to come over. I think it may even be the fourth. I might have missed someone that came over from Sony Santa Monica. As a matter of fact, if you didn't read, Stadia just announced their new first-party development studio that they pulled the lead from Sony Santa Monica to take that position as the studio lead in their new, I don't think they even announced what the name is, for Stadia. So they are bleeding talent at Sony Santa Monica. The second part of the question is, should fans of God of War be concerned, or is this just another day in the office? So let's start off with the first question, Zemi.
Okay, so I mean, just kind of jumping into it, to be honest, a lot of the people that I've heard, like their names and stuff like that, I really don't, I've never heard of them before, right?
Right.
But the titles is what's really important because most people I've never heard of, right? Most people you've probably never heard of either,
right?
But the titles is what's important.
Yeah. Yep.
And the main thing to take away as well from all of this is that this is a reoccurring thing, right? It's not just one developer from one company going to Xbox. It has been multiple, developers from all of these different companies, going to Xbox. And that's really, really exciting for us who are very much looking forward to the first party, them getting all of these talented people, especially, in particular, what's his name? Dean Reiner? Is
yes.
that correct? Reimer?
Yes. Reimer,
who was combat
R-Y-M-E-R, yes.
Yeah, who was combat lead on God of War, which is, probably one of last year's greatest, well, not last year, but like 2018's greatest not RPGs, but games that came out, right? It's a pinnacle, stone for the Sony brand, and he did an absolutely fantastic job on that game. Now he's working for In Exile on, what's rumored to be their third person RPG, which is extremely, extremely exciting. So, the huge takeaway of this is that whatever Xbox is doing, and you've kind of already said this, they're whatever they're doing is exciting enough to attract all of these heavy, heavily talented individuals to their brand. And that is extremely exciting for In Exile because, I'm not looking forward really to Wasteland 3. It's just not my thing.
Right.
But I have a sneaking suspicion that I'm going to be extremely interested in what their next game is going to be, if it is that third-person RPG. And so to have somebody who has major experience in combat, that's a huge W for In Exile and Xbox as a whole. Now, as far as like Sony and how concerned a Sony or a God of War player should be, I don't really know. I'm sure that there's still plenty of talented individuals over at Sony or Santa Monica.
Yeah.
But with that being said, it's not ever really a good thing for people, for them to lose, multiple people from the studio. That's never a good thing.
Let's clear this up for a second. First of all, I just have to respond to a good friend of the show, Pixelbit G. He says this, and it's interesting because it goes right to your point. I'm going to say the same thing about God of War as I said about Halo losing a studio lead on a 500+ team. Studio does not hurt. That is all, people. Don't I think spring negatives on that. Look, here's the thing. I am in no way, shape, or form going to even remotely suggest that God of War 2 is in trouble. In fact, I am very much looking forward to it. And I think that God of War 2 is probably closer to being done, at least in pre-production format, than you think. And the reason why I say that is because Cory Barlog is still there. Now, I don't know if he's going to be involved in the second one. I can't confirm that. I don't work for Sony Santa Monica. I hope he is, to be honest. But if you remember when God of War, when they were talking about God of War DLC, right? He had made it so big that Sony was like, nope. You're crazy. They told him he was crazy. He actually talked about this in public, that they said he was a lunatic for trying to even suggest such a thing. So I am sure that God of War 2 is probably, not all of it, but a good portion of what they've already had written or storyboard. Now, whether or not that's going to translate into the actual game, I don't know. But I'm not worried about Sony Santa Monica. But I will say this. The same concern that I have for Sony Santa Monica is the same concern that I have for the Coalition. Losing Rod is a big freaking deal, folks. Now, sure.
Well, that's a studio lead and not just like a combat lead.
Right. Yes. That is true. But I just wanted to be out there. This isn't me cherry picking my so-called fake concern for Sony, because I have people actually tell me that too. You're lying, Boom. You have fake outrage. Not fake outrage. I'm just, expressing my opinion. But continue, Zen.
Well, I mean, I think like a major distinction between like 343 losing. I don't even remember her name or really what her position was. But I think one of the big distinctions between that is, hasn't Santa Monica lost multiple people?
Yes, they've lost at least half a dozen.
Yeah, I mean, and so that is a big distinction. But with that being said, people leave developers all the time for all sorts of different reasons, and games still come out. Now, obviously Sony understands, how big, Santa Monica is for them. They understand how big the God of War franchise is for them, and they're going to make adequate, adjustments to,
Oh, yes.
to cover whatever losses they get. You know what I mean? So, at that point, I don't really think it should be concerning. I don't think that any Sony fan should be relatively in any way concerned at this point. I mean, obviously, if 30 or 40 developers left to go to Xbox, then yeah, that's really concerning. But you know what I mean? Yeah. Or if all of Santa Monica's, leaders were leaving to go to different companies, sure, that's going to be very concerning as well, right? But as it is right now, I don't think it is tremendously, concerning for that developer. I'm sure that they're working on God of War. The next God of War, would it be God of War 5 if I'm counting right?
Yes. Okay. Yes, it would be. Yeah. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Well, at least I know something. But I'm sure that game's going to come out. It's going to be a fantastic game. But I think what this story really echoes is how impressive of a job Xbox must be doing to be able to get these people interested in coming over to their brand and to their companies to work for them. I think that that's really the big takeaway from this story. Isn't necessarily, is Sony, is Sony, going to fall and die? Is the next God of War going to be a flop because, Xbox has taken their people? I don't think that that's really what this story should really, amplify. I think it should really amplify, how good of a job Xbox has to be doing to be able to get the interest of all these different developers and have them come over to their studios.
That's a great point. Real quick, let me catch up on some of the super chats here. First of all, Game Goons. First of all, thanks for being here, dude. That's a new name. If you've been here and I missed you, I apologize. He drops not one, but two $2 super chats and says, "Boom, my man. One day I'm going to be like you." That is very kind of you to say. I don't put myself on any kind of pedestal. I'm just me, but that is awesome of you to say. Let's see who's next. JD Gamer once again with another $2 super chat says, "PS has lost so much talent from the God of War team. What's left?" It's you know what? Look, I'm sure that you got to remember the talent that was behind God of War is it stretches through the entire team. Now, sure, are there studio leads that have left that maybe it was their vision and they went a certain way in a certain area in God of War? Yes. Is that going to be lost? It's hard to say. Do I think Sony Santa Monica is in trouble? Absolutely not. I think that they're going to fill those roles with people that have been in the business, that know what they're doing. People get promoted and demoted all the time. I think they're going to be fine. I will say, though, and I want to I want to do exactly what Zemi just said. He brings up a magnificent point. It's the story isn't what they're losing. It's how Microsoft is somehow or another attracting this talent. And it's not just Sony Santa Monica, folks. We've seen people from Rockstar, Rocksteady. I mean, the list is staggering. How many people have come over? You say Konami, you say, well, Konami, they're shit. No, the people that worked, that were high level production assistants, worked on, let's say, Metal Gear Solid 5. Now, a lot of people didn't like that. I happen to really like that. But they were brought over for their ability to make games based on an open world. See, all of these talents coming from left, right, and center are going to hopefully, again, we don't know, right? I mean, you bring a lot of good chefs in, and too many chefs, what do they say? Spoil the broth. So we can't say for sure that every game is going to be a quadruple A banger. We don't know that. We have to see the game. But at the same time, man, all this talent, Zemi, gets me excited. Continue.
Just to kind of touch on his super chat, it's also kind of important to remember how crucial and important getting new talent into your studio can be as well. And I know that, this wasn't a developer, this was, the marketing team. And we've kind of already spoke about this before, but that intern that recommended, announcing the Xbox Series X at, the VGAs, right? She's an intern. She's relatively new. She's new talent, but she was able to come up with that amazing, bold idea that we're still talking about today. Right. But she's new talent. And so, even though they have lost a lot of talented individuals, doesn't mean that they can't, grow new talent at their studios, and they won't come up with even better ideas to amplify the next God of War game and make it, even better than what it was before.
That's a great point. That is a really great point, because she was an intern. I'm assuming she probably has a corner office in the front parking spot, because it worked out really well.
Well, hopefully she does.
Yes, absolutely. Real quick, Kirby Zero or O Louise drops a $5 super chat. Thank you for being here, of course, but thank you for your generosity. Says, keep in mind HAL Labs Kirby series lost Sakura, but still created many acclaimed Kirby games afterwards. I think they are fine. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Oh, our good friend Gaming Forte, one of the major cogs and voices to primetime gaming on Monday evenings, stops by, drops a $2 super chat. Thank you for your generosity. My brother says, hey, Boom, just dropping love. Have a great show. Well, thank you, dude. And of course, Enrique, once again, Mr. Deep Pockets, who I'm going to buy a steak dinner when we meet at E3, says, boom, great show. Have to go. Have a great one. Yeah, thanks for being here, dude. Super appreciate that. And you know what, folks? Listen, we are past the 2-hour mark. We've been here. This has been an incredible show, better than I thought it was going to go. I am currently writing the last topic for Friday's Breakfast with Boom. It's going to be a smaller show. I almost canceled it. I'm going to be honest with you because I was having trouble getting guests. And we have, including myself, we have 4 people. And hopefully we can put on a show that's worthy of your time. No big guests tomorrow. I mean, again, when I say big, I mean, it's people that I enjoy bringing new people onto the show. And some people were supposed to possibly show up and we just couldn't get the schedule straight. So I'll be making an announcement later on this afternoon on who's going to be there. Everyone that you know and love is going to be there. We're going to talk lots of big game information, but a couple of things before we get on out of here that I want to talk about. There is someone in this community, you know him. He's very active on social media, especially on Twitter. His name is iDizzy. He is a writer for the Iron Lords website. And he wrote an incredible piece about gaming with cancer. I'm going to add the link to the show notes once this uploads. And I applaud you to please go and read this. It is an amazing read from someone who is currently dealing with a very serious situation and how important and this community is to him and what gaming does for him on a daily basis. But more so than that, I am announcing today that next Thursday's Xbox Factor podcast, for one night only, is moving to 8 p.m. because we, and I say we, Cognito and the entire Iron Lords podcast, along with the unbelievably generous Wilmy Hood and myself and Mrs. Boomstick, will be doing a charity live stream to donate money to iDizzy. Every dollar that is taken in Super Chat that day is going to be given to him, or is going to be sent to him. And the 30% that Google takes off the top, Mrs. Boomstick and I will be adding that out of our pockets to make sure that he gets 100% of all proceeds that we take in that night. And what's incredible, and I can't say it just yet because I'm going to make the announcement on Monday, but my God, the special guest that's going to be on this show is someone, and I won't say who it is until Monday. You've heard him on RDX. And yes, he has worked for Microsoft. Will be joining us in this charity stream. You probably know who it is. I probably, like a boob, gave away too much, but I'll be making the announcement on Monday. So next Thursday's Xbox Factor podcast will be for one night only, happening at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on my channel. And the panel is going to consist of Zemi Games, myself, Wilmy Hood, and Cognito from the Iron Lords podcast. And I'm working on getting another huge special guest, and I will be making the announcement of who that 6th panel member is going to be. And also, if you were in the chat, and we have almost 300 plus people still here, if you are someone, and I'm going to listen, I normally will not do this because I like having people win things, but because I still have a significant amount of copies of the Division 2, I'm throwing this out there, and I'm going to use the honor system. If you are in the chat right now, if you are in the United States, and you yourself want a copy for the PlayStation 4 or Xbox One of the Division 2, brand new and sealed, all you have to do is DM me and tell me what you want it for, and I will send it to you for absolutely the price of free. It won't cost you a dime. I just wanted, and Mrs. Boomstick and I wanted to do something to not only celebrate the warlords of New York, but give back to this amazing community that has given so much to us. So if you are here and you are listening, you've heard it right. A free copy of the Division 2. All I need is your shipping address, your first and last name, and I will mail it out either today or tomorrow. And that, you know what, real quick, Elemental PO says, drops a $2 super chat, says, I can't wait to check out the charity podcast. Yes, thank you so much for that. And Great 180 drops a $5 super chat and says, Sony is giving PlayStation 4 smack in the face. Ghost of Tsushima will be on PlayStation 5. Oh, okay. Dude, you know what? I have the article. I'm going to say this right now. I saw this coming. I talked about this on Breakfast with Boom Zemi. I said Ghost of Tsushima. And again, I could have sworn it's coming out in June. So maybe, I don't know. I we'll talk about it in detail tomorrow. I hope that's not true. I hope that it's being released on PlayStation 4, because if it is a PlayStation 5 exclusive, man, that's going to upset a lot of people. Not me, because I'm getting both, but it's going to be very disappointing for the PlayStation community at large. But Zemi, listen, dude, it's been great. Having you part of the show has been the best thing that has happened since we started the show. You bring a wealth of knowledge and opinions that I think that not only myself, but the entire community looks forward to. Please tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, but more importantly, check out your outstanding YouTube channel.
Well, thank you so much, Boom. And I'm a little upset because the show's already over.
I know.
But thank you so much for setting up the show as always, man. If you guys enjoyed my opinions, definitely check out my YouTube channel. It's called Zimmy Games. I do a bunch of gaming tutorials, gaming news, reviews, all sorts of gaming content. So make sure to check out my YouTube channel. Once again, it's called Zimmy Games. You guys can also follow me on Twitter at Zimmy Games. I'm not the most active person, but I usually always post whenever I have a video that's going out or I see something really interests me. I usually post back. My DMs are also always open. So if you guys ever want to come into my DMs, send me a message talking about something that maybe you agreed with, or even if you didn't agree with. I always love talking to the community and interacting and everything like that. So feel free to send me a DM anytime that you want. And that's pretty much it. Thank you so much, Boom. And thank you so much for everyone that, stopped by today to listen to all these amazing topics.
Well, yeah, thanks so much for being here. Real quick, I just see Farscape. He said, damn, missed it. Listen, dude, it's going to be going up any minute. Hopefully you'll be able to listen to it. I appreciate the view. And I'll say it one more time before we get on out of here. If you are someone that is a gamer who does not own the copy of the Division 2 for the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One, hit me up in the DM. Let me know that you want it, and I will send it out for the absolute price of free. My way and Mrs. Boomstick's way of giving back and saying thank you to this community. All I need is your name and your shipping address, and I will mail it out either today or early tomorrow before Breakfast with Boom goes live. Hit me up. Let me know. Again, folks, free, absolutely free. I have 13 copies. I'm not sure what the order is. It is first come, first serve. So if you happen to ask for one and all I have is the other, that's what you're going to get. Hopefully people are doing the honor system and not taking them from me and selling them. That would be kind of shitty. So don't do that. I want gamers to game. So if you want a copy of it, please DM me and I will send it out for free. Once again, Zemi, thank you for being here. Once again, thank you for the chat being as generous as you always are. And I want to close out the show that I do almost all the time. Two things that come to mind when I think about my amazing father is he taught us when we were very small, it doesn't cost anything to be nice and treat others how you want to be treated. You live by these rules, and I can guarantee you, you're going to have an awesome day. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor Podcast.